Hey guys, Coach Ambrose here. Hope all is well with you. Everyone's staying safe and healthy, and hopefully you guys have found some ways to train on your own, whether it's outside or maybe if mom and dad let you work out in the basement without breaking anything. Hopefully you guys may be able to find ways to stay sharp and in shape so that, once we get past this craziness and we can get out onto the baseball diamond and have some fun, you guys are in as close to mid-season form as you possibly can. But, the goal should be to be able to hit the ground running right out of the gate. And have some fun, once that time comes. And, like I said, we can get back to some normalcy here, hopefully in the near future. But just know from myself and all the other coaches at Nakona, it kills us not to be with you guys and to be able to practice and be out on the field and enjoying the sport that we love. But just know we're thinking of you guys, and we cannot wait to get outside and have some fun on the baseball field with you. But in the meantime, we've been releasing some instructional videos and we've gotten great feedback on that. Messages people sent me and people sharing with me that they've been able to take advantage of some of the stuff we've shared from our instruction videos. But I wanted to be able to do something else on top of that. And in an earlier video, I had talked about maybe some type of video analysis or video breakdown, whatever you want to call it. But I thought it might be beneficial just from the standpoint, obviously, we're not able to do lessons or instructions and, of course, practices that go along with that. But I thought maybe bringing the instruction firsthand to you guys and everyone watching. And, I think it would be not only beneficial to the person sending the video in, but for everyone watching as well. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today applies not only to, this particular hitter, but it I would argue can apply to most hitters. I would argue most major league guys are going to get to similar spots throughout the hitting process. And, that's what I want to kind of talk about today so that you guys are getting, not only, quantity of reps, but we're doing quality ones too. And, if you're able to take one or two things to focus on at home by yourself or with mom or dad or a sibling, the more, the better off you'll be as you continue to get reps in and continue to stay sharp. So, if you see me looking all over the place, I got 3 monitors in front of me. I got a microphone. I got 2 cameras. We're doing this live, so bear with me. This is the first time I'm using this, but we'll figure it out. We'll get through it. If anyone has any suggestions, by all means, feel free to share with me. But let's get into it. Let's see what happens. So first swing we're going to talk about, is my man Fionn here from our 10-year-old team, and I have the pleasure of coaching Fionn on our 10-year-old team, and the improvements that he and Coach Paulson have made this winter when they were doing lessons is awesome. We'll talk about one or two things here just to keep an eye on Fionn and for everybody else watching, but there is a lot of good improvements that I want to kind of go over and discuss and go along. So right out of the gate, nice relaxed stance, loads back. All right. Great angle over his backside shoulder, knob down to the catcher. One thing that I know Coach Paulson and Fionn were working on was creating separation with his hands. So as he was taking his stride, lowering his hands back, basically. We talked about in, I believe, our first instructional video off the tee, maybe our first or second one. We talked about, if we're truly gaining ground with our weight transfer and we're loading our hands back, we should see some type of stretch in our front side elbow. And I know for a fact that Fionn and Coach Paulson have worked on that. And as you can see, hands are back outside the shoulder, stretching his elbow, much better angle over his back shoulder. And if I go back just a little bit, let me go to foot strike. So one thing that I know Coach Paulson and Fionn were working on as well was, and I would see it sometimes this winter at practice, and Fionn, this is a huge improvement if you're watching this. Sometimes we would see Finn's back elbow already dropping and sometimes almost getting to his hip. And what that causes us to do as a hitter is we never really allow separation between our hips and our hands, and our hips never have a chance to actually lead our hands through the zone. A lot of times our hands get ahead of our hips. It's basically all upper body as far as our swing from there. And we lose out, basically our power source, our lower half, throughout the hitting process. And so Fionn has come a long way, and this is a huge improvement in terms of his hands getting loaded back, elbows still up. Now, as we go along, and this is point number 2 I want to talk about, Finn, way better job. If you watch this little gap between his back shoulder and his bat, all right, and this is something I see a lot from a lot of younger hitters and even high school hitters, is you'll start to see that barrel separate and get off the shoulder super early back here outside his back hip, and we don't want that. We want to keep this gap to as close as we can. You know, if you think about it, the tighter and more compact we are as a hitter, the quicker we're going to move our hands and barrel through the zone. All right, so if we can keep that gap to a minimum, and as you see, as we go through, look how tight it is to that back shoulder. It never really casts, and sometimes I would see that from not only Finn, but just the majority of kids on our 10-year-old team is that bat really leave the back shoulder early. So Finn, like I said, if you're watching this, much better job staying tight to the back shoulder. If I can use an example, for instance, let's pull up Lindor. All right, I've got Lindor loaded up. All right, so as we go along, so he's at his landing. If I argue, this might be a good comparison for Finn. You know, Lindor not as big of a guy, so he's going to really have to utilize his lower half compared to maybe like an Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton, who, you know, those guys are big, they're strong, they can swing with their upper body. Lindor, not so much. All right, so maybe this is a good side-by-side comparison for Finn here. But as you can see, pretty close in terms of where they're at their landing. Knob down to the catcher over the backside shoulder. Hands are back outside the shoulder, stretching the front elbow. But in terms of that gap I was talking about off his back shoulder, if I continue to go forward, see how that gap is staying so consistent? It's staying locked in with that back shoulder. All right. And then we go back to Finn. Pull up Finn here. All right. Whoop. Same thing, right? Like tight to that back shoulder. No cast. Just this alone, I have seen Finn's barrel speed through the zone increase. Just by this alone. You know, like I said, the tighter and more compact we are, A, the lighter that bat's going to feel to the hitter, and B, the quicker and easier we're going to be able to move our hands through the zone. So Finn, way better job with your hands, your back elbow, and then keeping the barrel tight to the back shoulder. All right, now, the first thing I want to point out with Finn's swing, and this is so common. I would argue, you know, I've been doing this 7 years now. Coach Paulson, Coach Sullivan, Coach Lyon have been doing it longer than I have. I would say this is like one of the very first fixes we have to make in most young hitters. And that is where our elbow is in relation to our back hip. So as you can see here, if I draw a line, hopefully this is working. Maybe not. There we go. All right. So I would say just where I drew that line, that's Finn's back hip. And as you can see, you can't see his back elbow right now. And the reason being is it's starting to push past his back hip. All right. And it's hidden behind his top hand here. All right. Now, the reason why this usually becomes an issue, especially with young hitters, is the more that back elbow pushes back or past the back hip, I should say, the more it's going to delay our top hand, and more importantly, this barrel being able to release to get out front and attack this baseball. So if I continue, let me get rid of that line real quick. So if I continue, you're going to see his hands continue to push, his elbows continue to push. You can see his barrel is still starting to drag a little bit, all right? And as a result, and this is usually part B of our back elbow pushing past our back hip, you can start to see his front elbow lifting up. So if I go back, Finn actually did a really good job keeping that front elbow tight to his chest. Tight. But as soon as his back elbow pushes past his hip, let me see if there we go. You can start to see that elbow start to lift up and pull off his chest. All right. And again, all that does is create more of a drag with our hands and our barrel. And as a result, our barrel has a tougher time catching up to, especially once the ball's moving, tougher time catching up to pitches and to be able to release and get out front and attack the baseball. All right. So for example, if I go back, so if I leave it on this frame right here, I go back to Lindor swing, for example. All right. So let's continue the process. So as you can see here, actually, I'm in a pretty good spot. Elbows on back hip. All right. Now, once he's here, a lot of times what I have guys try to emphasize and I don't know if exaggerate's the right word, but to a certain extent, I almost tell them to think about their elbow to back hip. That's what triggers your top hand and barrel starting to release to the baseball. So if you watch, he's on his back hip. Boom, right away you can start to see his top hand and barrel gaining ground at this point. All right. And Finn's not that far off. I mean, he's where Lindor is right here. I would say Fionn is about, if I can get my line tool again, hold on one second. Whoops. Let me pull this back up. Hold on one second. There we go. I would say Finn's barrel is about right there. So it's just a little bit further behind. All right. But you can see the difference between the two. All right. And more importantly, when we get to point of contact. All right. So point of contact here for Lindor. Let's go back and get Fionn at point of contact. Let's minimize this. Whoops, go back. So about right here. So we should see, again, if I pull up the line tool, we should really start to see that barrel more so here on this line out in front with his top hand attacking the baseball. All right. And again, like I said, if I go back to Lindor here, you'll see the difference. Get rid of that line there between the two. All right. And then again, as I said, as a result, you can see the difference between where Lindor's front elbow is, where it's tight to the chest. All right. His hands are he's still compact to his body. Means his hands are going to stay tight and inside the baseball. And if we go back to Fionn here, notice you can kind of see the difference where there is a bit of that gap. All right. And again, it just causes the hands to drag and delay a little bit. And I tell guys, you almost want to think about, if I can pull up the big camera here. Hold on one second. Let me pull up the big camera and I'll demonstrate this. All right. So again, what I was talking about in terms of the back elbow kind of being the trigger point and kind of the feedback for our top hand and barrel to start to release to the baseball. All right. So where we see Lindor is about right here. So his elbow gets to back hip. All right. And his top hand and barrel start to release out in front to attack the baseball. All right. And again, elbow tight to the chest. He's nice and compact. Hands will easily stay inside the body. All right. Where Fionn is at is and Fionn, like I said, just a little bit further than you want to be. Just a little bit past the back hip. And that's what's causing your elbow to get off your chest. And as a result, we have if I can turn this way, a bit of a gap off our chest. All right. Like I said, we want to try to minimize that gap as much as possible. All right. So one thing I usually try to have hitters do, if that's the case, and an easy drill to do at home, you don't even need a baseball, is, and I think I saw a video actually, probably last week on Instagram. It was JD Martinez last year, I believe, in the on deck circle or warming up for BP. I think it was one or two. But essentially, he was just taking his back elbow to back hip, and then just kind of releasing the barrel. So it was like elbow to back hip, release, elbow to back hip, release. All right, and I'll tell my hitters, like I said, this is a very common problem with most young hitters, and like I said, high school hitters. And again, the more that elbow pushes past the back hip, all right, the harder it is for my top hand and barrel to actually release and get out front. I've kind of lost my leverage at that point. All right. Another good example, parent, if you're working with your son and you see their elbow really pushing past their back hip, kind of a good like comparison for them to feel is So have them get into that position where their elbow's way past their back hip. So if I'm going to get my stance here. All right. So have them get almost past their back hip like this. Have their barrel in this position like they're getting ready to try to hit a baseball. All right. And what I want you to do is essentially just push their barrel back. And the goal should be for them to try to like force, like not allow you to push this barrel back. All right. And what you're going to find is it's going to be almost impossible because they have no leverage with their arm. Their wrist is easily going to break and the barrel's going to push back. All right. So they really don't have leverage there. And then once you do that and you show them, then get their elbow to back hip, get their barrel square with their hands, and then try to push and have them resist against you pushing against their barrel. And what they'll feel and what they'll find is because everything's in line here, all right, and they have leverage with their dominant hand and their top hand, that they can actually push and get a little more power into this barrel as opposed to their wrist breaking and the barrel pushing back, all right? So it's a good example in terms of using that dominant hand and that dominant arm as leverage. If that elbow pushes past the back hip, we just don't have any leverage there. Here, I'm a lot stronger, a lot tighter as a hitter, which means I'm going to be a lot more explosive. I'm going to put more of a charge into that hit once contact comes. All right. So just a good little drill right there. But like I said, the other one with JD Martinez of elbow to back hip and just feeling that release is another good one. One that I like to do a lot with hitters too. The reason why is you'll see right away if they go too far past, you'll see almost it's like a two-part process. Whereas this is fluid, like my elbow to back hip releases the barrel. Here it's like 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, and we don't want that elbow out in front, ahead of our hands and ahead of our barrel at that point. All right, so that'll just be point number one. And like I said, it's very common. Let me go back to Finn here. It's very common. Something that we usually have to fix with most young hitters right out of the gate. Like I said, haven't done this for years. This is very, very common. And I would argue Finn is way better off than where he was. Sometimes we would see his elbow get really far out in front and it would just break down the rest of his swing. If I fast forward even just one more clip here, even with it getting a little bit ahead and that elbow getting off his chest, he actually still gets to a good hitting position. Like his barrel's with his top hand. He's actually not in a bad position here. All right, so maybe I'm nitpicking on you, Finn. But like I said, you'll find that it kind of drags the barrel and you're going to lose a little bit of pop and a little bit of barrel speed through the zone. The more this elbow starts to separate and get off your chest and the more your back elbow pushes past your back hip. All right. And it's going to lead me to point number 2, which is one almost goes hand in hand with the other. A lot of times when you see that elbow pull off the chest, what that does is it causes our hands to pull away and out of the zone towards our pull side. So if you watch, if I continue to go forward, so he's through contact, and then right about here, that top hand's turning over, and you can see his barrel is swinging and releasing almost towards the house behind his backyard here. If we can see that. So barrel releases towards the backyard. Whereas if we go back to Lindor's, for example, as an example, so you're going to see him at contact and you're going to see his barrel not release to the fans behind him back here. You're going to see the barrel release out front here, almost like his barrel's trying to chase and follow the baseball out of the ballpark. So it's here, out. See how the barrel's continuing to go forward? It's not going towards the crowd behind him. So his barrel is now releasing forward through the baseball. All right. And if you need another example, this is out in front. And as you'll see that barrel release out towards us, as opposed to if we had a similar angle with Finn, his barrel would probably be a little bit, if I get my draw tool again, I would say starting to get a little bit more over here. And we don't want our barrel in this direction already. All right. For a number of reasons. Okay. Number one, a lot of times it causes a lot of rollovers, and you'll see kids' hands rolling over through contact. So if we go back to Fionn, for example, let me go back a little bit. You can start to see that hand. He's palm up at contact, which is great. But for most guys, we want to see that hand continue to stay palm up a little bit longer to extension. All right, so when he's at full extension, you can see here his barrel's almost pointing kind of in this direction here. Like I said, almost in this direction instead. I would like to see his barrel pointed straight out towards this net. All right. The reason why that's important, again, it's the force that we're exerting through the baseball is going to be through it now, as opposed to a lot of times when you see that top hand roll and the hands and barrel exit early, we're now getting on the outside part of the baseball, and we don't necessarily want to be there as a hitter. And if you want to truly drive the ball, have good backspin through the zone and be able to drive it to the gaps, we need that top hand to stay palm up and through the baseball a little bit longer and not make as early of an exit through the zone. The other thing, all right, and one thing we haven't really talked about in this video yet, is staying on plane with the baseball. All right, so if this ball was moving, for example, let me clear out these lines here. All right, we talk about a lot of times with our hitters, the ball is going to come into the zone on a downhill plane. All right, and this is very contrary and against what myself and I would argue probably Coach Paulson, Coach Lyon, Coach Sullivan were taught, which is we got to swing down to the baseball, swing our hands and barrel down to the baseball. And there's just, some guys can do it. Like I said, the examples I used earlier, like Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton, that are strong enough that they just want to backspin the baseball out of the ballpark and they can hammer down on the baseball. It might work for those guys. Most guys are going to try to, what I would say, match the plane of the baseball. So Finn's goal through the zone, it's going to be a little bit different, obviously, because the ball's not moving and his eyes aren't telling his hands to work on a plane uphill through a baseball for the most part. All right, but Finn's goal throughout the process is to try to get his barrel working on this same plane as the baseball and keep it there for as long as possible. All right. The problem with rollovers is, and again, it kind of goes hand in hand with our elbow leaking off our chest and pulling towards our pull side, is it pulls our hands and barrel out of the zone. So as you can see, his barrel is there at contact, which is good, but then makes an early exit out of the zone or off the plane of the baseball. All right. So if this ball was actually moving on Fionn, it could be the difference between him having a base hit, line drive up the middle, or causing us to roll over based on his timing. Whereas if Fionn is able to stay on that line and extend his hands on that line as long as possible through the baseball, now timing doesn't become as big of an issue. He might be a little bit early or a little bit late with his barrel. We talked about his barrel being just a little bit behind, all right? But if he's matching the plane of the baseball, he'll still buy base hits out of it. The reason being is his barrel is behind and working through the baseball if he is matching that plane, all right? And as a hitter, that should kind of be our goal. If the plane of the baseball is downhill, well, naturally, if we want to work on the same plane as the baseball, we should be working uphill. All right. So again, a good drill I have guys do, and Coach Paulson utilizes this a lot. He uses it a lot more than I do. Is if you're able to do, let me get into my full cam here again. All right. A good drill at home is, you can even do this off the tee, or if you want to do it front toss, that's fine too. All right. But is putting off I would say 50% swing. So we're not going full speed, because otherwise guys, you'll break your wrist. All right. But just a relatively, not 100%, but 50, 75%. All right. And the primary focus is we're trying to focus on our top hand staying palm up through contact all the way to extension. All right. And we're actually going to try to pause at full extension. All right. So, like I said, Coach Paulson utilizes this a lot with his guys hitting. I do it every now and then. I should probably do it more just to emphasize this very point. But you're going to put off a swing, whether it's off the tee or if mom or dad are able to throw soft toss to you. All right. We're going to complete the swing. All right. So we're going to put off a good swing. But instead of finishing all the way through over a backside shoulder, we're going to try to finish pointed straight out. All right, so as you can see, if I go towards the camera here, all right, so I'm gonna put off my swing, and I'm gonna try to pause basically out front at full extension. All right, and that's why I said don't do this full speed because you'll break your wrist trying to stop at that point. So nice, easy, fluid swing, and you want to see that barrel release out towards the middle, like here with Finn, he's hitting into a net in front of him. He wants to try to concentrate and exaggerate his top hand, again, staying palm up and throwing and releasing that barrel towards the net in front of him. All right, and again, if we're rolling the ball over, what will happen, something to keep an eye on, is if a kid is rolling his hands over, you'll see his top hand turn the barrel away from the net or whatever he's hitting into. All right, for me, the camera right here. So instead of being here, which is now my barrel working through the baseball, you can see my barrel cuts out of the zone and cuts off the baseball. All right, and that's one thing we can kind of focus on, a good drill to work on at home, is just being able to stay palm up, see that barrel release through the baseball, don't let it roll over and around it. All right. Despite that, even with his hands getting a little bit out of the zone, let me get rid of these lines here. Whoops. He still throws the barrel through the baseball. Nice finish. The other thing I didn't talk about here real quick, and we'll finish up the video, is Finn's rotation with his lower half has gotten so much better. I would say sometimes what would happen is as he rotated, you'd see his back leg right here, and really his back knee start to almost lock out and post up a little bit. Finn, if you're watching, way better, man. Back knee bent, rotating with the hip. A lot of times I talk with my guys about, we want to see this back hip and this back knee work together as one. And if this back knee's locking out, it's tough for this hip to actually go forward, gain ground, and transfer weight for us. So Finn, way better job keeping the back knee bent, and look at this post up. Way better post up, man. As you can see, now his head and chest stays back behind the baseball. He's rotational now, all right? A lot of times what we'll see hitters is they'll do a good job gaining ground from point A to point B, transferring weight, all right? If I can go back to my full screen here for a minute, just real quick. We'll see a good job of them gaining ground from point A to point B, but then their head and chest continue to go forward as they're trying to swing. And again, it makes it harder for our hands to work around our body and get out front to attack the baseball. And we're not really being rotational at that point. More importantly, our head and chest are now moving forward. Now my eyes have a much harder time tracking this baseball. Where Finn's at in this example is did a good job weight transferring forward. From there, head and chest stayed locked in. Great post up on his front side leg, and his head and his chest stayed locked in. So if this ball's moving, Finn is going to have no problem. Let's go back to Finn. Rewind here a little bit. So we're at foot strike here. Let's draw a line. Close enough. All right. If this ball's moving, Finn's going to have zero issue tracking this base. Look at this head lock in all the way through the swing. Can't draw it up any better. And again, a lot of it has to do with our back knee staying bent. If Finn's back knee posted up and locked out, you'd see his chest push forward. You'd see his chest out front here, and you'd actually probably see him almost vertical, like straight up and down. Like his head, chin, chest would be all on his front foot, basically. He would never create, let me draw my line again. He would never create this angle back. It wouldn't be possible. All right, so it has to do with a great post up with his front side, back knee bent, turning with the hip. And again, he's being rotational at this point. This is the time for our body to be rotational, attacking the baseball. All right, and if you need further proof, if we go back to Lindor, for example, all right, get rid of that line. So he's at foot strike. head and chest locked in on the baseball, not moving. And now his hands and barrel are free to work around his body. I almost relate it. Some guys give me some flack for it, but I almost relate it to like a tetherball pole. All right. If you guys know what tetherball is, there's a pole, ball's on a string, and the goal is to try to hit the ball around that pole as fast as possible. Now, the first question I ask most guys is, what's that pole made out of? It's made out of steel. All right. And then I say, well, what if that pole wasn't made out of steel? Maybe it was like PVC pipe. And the problem with PVC pipe is it bends and it wobbles. So that ball on the string is not going to be able to whip around that pole as fast as possible because there's going to be give to it. All right. Our body almost acts as the same for our hands and barrel working around our body at this point. So again, it's okay to gain ground at our stride and transfer weight at that point. But once that stride foot lands, we want to try to keep that body locked in so that our eyes aren't moving off the baseball. We can stay on the backside of the baseball. And like I said, now we're able to create maximum speed and whip around our body with our hands and barrel. All right. So Lindor here, as well as if I pull Finn back up, get rid of the lines here. Both of them do a great job with their post up, front side leg, back knee bent. Like I said, we'll go back here. Finn, if I were you, the more I look at this, the more I would watch Lindor swing. You guys are in very similar spots. Look at front leg straight, back knee bent, turned with the hip. A little bit on his toes on the back foot, which is fine. Again, as long as that back foot's not dragging. All right, I'm fine with this. This is perfectly fine. As long as it's not dragging forward. All right. Same thing with Finn here. If I go back to Finn. Front knee posted up, back knee bent, on his toes. But again, he's rotational at this point. He stays on that axis point, which is huge. Huge for a young hitter. Again, keeps the head still, and it allows the hands and barrel to work around the body. So, in conclusion, Finn, if you're watching this, awesome job, man. When your dad sent me this video, I was so pumped to see it. Great load back with the hands, much better weight transfer at the step. And again, I'm being a little picky, all right? So don't take it personal. I'm being just a little bit picky. Just a little bit further than you want to be, past your back hip with your back elbow, and then just make sure your top hand isn't rolling over early, all right? Make sure that you're staying palm up through. And like I said, when you're hitting off the tee, try to feel that barrel release not only through the baseball, but out towards that net in front of you. All right. Don't let the barrel release towards this white house behind you. Release it out front here. All right. And if you need to, put a marker, like get some duct tape or whatever, put a marker out here and just feel yourself release that barrel out towards that marker on the net. All right. And that way, like I said, we're actually driving barrel through the baseball, number one, but more importantly, our hands and our barrel have a much better chance of staying on plane with that baseball and staying through the baseball so that once this ball's moving, as we know, our timing's not going to be perfect. I wish I could teach perfect timing. I'd probably make a lot of money in this if I could teach perfect time. That's what I tell people all the time. If we can maximize the length and time that barrel is on plane through the baseball and through the zone, timing doesn't become as big of an issue anymore. All right. And that's going to be a huge thing for Finn going forward, especially as he gets older and now he starts to face better and better off speed stuff. But just in general, in terms of just driving the baseball to the outfield, get on plane with that baseball, drive through it, stay there as long as possible. Make sure your hands and barrel aren't trying to pull off that baseball early. But dude, awesome job here. There's a lot of good things here. Head and chest staying still, way better separation with your hands, good stride forward, good weight transfer forward. And last thing I didn't even talk about, no weight on that back foot anymore, man. No weight on the back foot anymore. And not like pushing your chest forward to be able to do that. So, Finn, thank you for sending that in. Great first video to kind of talk about. Hopefully, I know this video ran a little bit long, but hopefully there's a couple key points that you guys can kind of hone in and watch. Like I said, Lindor might be a great example for Finn here. study the game. Don't just, getting reps out there is great, but I think this has an extra added value to it as well. As get on YouTube. That's the great thing about the internet and YouTube. There's a million swings you can pull up. So find 2 or 3 of your favorite hitters. Look at how they approach and attack their swing and how they attack the baseball. See if you can pick out some points that maybe we talked about here in this video today and how you can apply them to your swing going forward so that, again, not only are we getting quantity reps off the tee or front toss, or if mom or dad can throw BTP to you, but getting quality reps too, all right? Be a student of the game. There's no better time. Get your homework done early in the morning and then do your baseball homework in the afternoon. Pull up some swings, pull up some videos, kind of compare and contrast what different guys may do. My suggestion would be find someone comparable to you. Like I said, Aaron Judge, Chris Bryant, Giancarlo Stanton might not be the best comparison for most guys because, those guys are monsters. Those guys are amazing hitters. And but find guys that are more compatible with you. Like I said, Lindor is a great example because he's not a big guy. He's got to really utilize his lower half, so it's a great comparison for Finn to look at. But like I said, be a student of the game and start to study this stuff and try to pick apart some things that these guys do very well, maybe some stuff we talked about today, and then, like I said, apply it to your swing. All right. Like I said, I apologize if the video went a little bit longer than I thought. Still working out the kinks. Hopefully it smoothens out the more we do these, but I thought it would be a great tool to be able to release to you guys other than, instructional drills that we're talking about. This is firsthand stuff that we can see and be able to utilize. But Finn, thank you very much for sending this in. As I stated, way back, when I say way back, it's been a couple weeks. So Finn will be entered into the giveaway for one of 2 $50 Baseballism gift cards. So like I said in a previous video, all you have to do is send it in. I'm going to try to get to as many of these as I can. But even if I don't get to it and I'm not able to use it, you will still be entered into the drawing. So just because if I don't get to it and I don't post it on our social media, it doesn't mean you're not entered into the giveaway. All you have to do is enter a video and send it to me. I will leave, hopefully, I think this way here. I'll leave my information. Send me an email. Send me a direct message on Instagram, and we'll get squared away. Usually the easiest ways to do it is to send it via text. So if you want to send one in, shoot me a message on Instagram or send me an email. I'll send you my contact information and send it to me. And then, like I said, I'm going to try to get to as many of these as I can. And, we can kind of learn from these as we go along. But again, Finn, thank you very much. You're looking good, man. I love it. Keep working hard. Everyone else, keep working hard. Stay in shape. Stay sharp. And like I said, hopefully sooner rather than later, we can get out into the diamond and have some fun. So thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. If you have any suggestions, leave a comment down below in terms of stuff we can improve on. But like I said, this is the first time me using this program, so hopefully it went, I'm going to go back and look at it here in a second. Hopefully it went relatively smooth and I can make some adjustments to clean some things up. But if you have any suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time in the next video. Appreciate it.